Hello and welcome to another episode of SoFly. It is mid-March, and we're here recording another episode. We've got new cameras, so if you're watching on YouTube, we got new cameras. My name is Mitch. We've got Aldo. We got Yilma.
Hello.
And we're very excited today to be talking to nice Yilma. Nice delayed hello. I always like that.
Just
hello.
Always interrupting. Forever interrupting.
Super stoked today to be chatting with two fellas that we met last year, actually, through the F3T. The Bracker brothers, Andrew and Eric Bracker, are outdoor filmmakers, fly anglers, and sustainability advocates. They're originally from Brookville, Maryland, a suburban town between D.C. and Baltimore. But Eric lives in Brookville. Andrew now lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. They grew up fishing the Chesapeake Bay and surrounding tribs. This area and fishery was actually inspiration for their first award-winning film, A Journey Upstream, which is the film we talked about last year. Their latest film, Phoenix, is part of this year's fly fishing film tour. Ultimately, Andrew and Eric say they hope to continue using outdoor films to spark sustainable change. But today they're on SoFly. Andrew, Eric, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty pumped to be here. And I will say, we don't care, but it's Breaker.
Okay, see, that's what you know what? I was going to ask you guys before I did it. Is it Breaker or Bracker? And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to take a chance. I got a 50% shot. And I went Bracker, and of course it was Breaker. But hey, you know, that's the way she goes, baby.
Hey, it's all good.
Yeah, guys, we're stoked. We're stoked to be chatting. We talked, what? It was like almost, I think it was like pretty much exactly a year ago about the first film, right? It was like this time last year-ish.
Dude, I am so bad with dates, but I think generally speaking, it was about a year ago,
Yeah.
We measure everything in like the film festival circuit now. Like that's our lives now dictated by like, right now we're going through the phase of like celebrating the film we just created and also brainstorming the next one.
Yeah.
And that's what spring means to us now.
Yeah, just like what's the next film going to be about and when can we shoot it and all that jazz. That's good.
That's really good.
That's good, man. Yeah. Well, it's good to see you guys. I mean, how have things been going in your area? I mean, Andrew, you moved out to Colorado last spring, you were saying?
I did, yeah.
It's quite the move.
For most of my life, I spent it living in Brookville, Maryland, which is where Eric's at right now.
Yeah.
And, I made the trek out to the American West, and I haven't looked back. As much as I love Maryland, Colorado is just epic. The amount of public land and recreational opportunity is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
So did work bring you out there, or was it mainly recreation, and then you've just been making work fit into that move?
I think... my fiance and I, we wanted to move out to Colorado and we prioritized that, and we then looked for jobs in that area. So it was originally just the urge to go to Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to be out in the mountains, surrounded by the streams. Well, you guys are both, I mean, you and your fiance, congratulations, by the way. That's a new thing too, right? Like, isn't that recent?
Yeah. Thank you. Got a wedding coming up this year.
Planning.
Hell yeah.
A non-COVID wedding.
Yeah.
Well, it's still in the shadow of COVID, but not like within the grips of it.
The grasp.
Yeah, Mitch had a COVID wedding.
Because also Mitchy got married
in the Cove
this summer.
Yeah,
in the Cove.
Yeah.
Fall.
It was actually October. Yeah. What date, Andrew? Do you guys have a date?
The 29th.
Oh man, so close. 23rd. That would have been crazy. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
All the days in the year. Eric, what's been going on with you? Like, what's new in your end of things?
Well, I graduated from college in the spring, which was
right on.
Congratulations!
I appreciate that. And I went to Susquehanna University, which was in Central PA, kind of in that beautiful fishery near, kind of pretty close to Penn State, right near Bucknell. But since then, I've moved back home, and like Andrew said, we're in Brookville, which is like pretty much equal distance between DC and Baltimore, right in the heart of like no trout fishing in any direction.
Nice.
So Andrew and I are kind of like polar opposites right now. But I've been busy. Yeah, right now is the key word. But but I've been busy. I've been working full time for a real estate marketing company, making real estate content. So virtual tours, drone photography, kind of all that stuff. but also obviously chasing kind of the outdoor film passion on the side too. Like I know Andrew's mentioned, and I'm sure we'll talk about, but especially since Phoenix was our second film, I think people are starting to like catch on and understand that this is something we want to continue doing. So we've had a host of different opportunities present themselves to us already this year. So it's been pretty hectic, kind of planning, trying to figure out what projects are going to be actually doable. We're kind of in that phase where we're giving them all a chance, and it's starting to get a little bit overwhelming, and we know we'll have to cut back at some point.
Right.
But yeah, things have been good, busy, but everything has been great.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, it's good to have, beating away opportunities is always a good thing, and lots of stuff bubbling up. I mean, so maybe we'll talk about the filmmaking stuff and talk about, obviously the most recent work and what you guys are maybe excited to get doing. But before we get into that, why don't we just start by talking a bit about your fishing life and how you guys got into fly fishing? Because I don't think we got into that last time. And so, let's maybe start with Andrew. Like, how did you get into fly fishing? What was the path?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people, first, it wasn't fly fishing off the bat. It was conventional fishing, and my first fish was a largemouth bass out of the lake just like a mile from our house. And, that's in the early years, it was like lakes, ponds, and the occasional trip to the Chesapeake Bay, which is kind of also pretty close to where we grew up. And then we started really getting into that and striper fishing. And I went to undergrad at a college that's situated right on the Chesapeake Bay. And one of my best friend from college, he had a fly rod, and I saw him at the docks one day fishing. And I was thinking, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's for trout. Why do you have a fly rod in the salt right now?
Totally.
And he ended up catching a striped bass, and that totally just opened up a whole world for me. And I started
for sure,
just doing tons of research on it. Got my own rod, or we got our first rod for Christmas that year. And I remember just like trying so hard to land my first fish, and I ended up landing a striped bass off the docks at my college. That was my first fish on the fly.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. That was going to be the follow-up question. Was do you remember your first fish on the fly?
Yeah, how big was the striper? Like, was it a nice fish?
Must have been.
No, this was a very small fish.
Just a little one?
Like 10 inches.
Still, like it was enough to get you hooked on it.
Exactly.
It's cool. That's dope. Eric, how'd you get into it?
Scrapers.
Was it kind of like, was it this following Andrew's footsteps, or were you also getting stoked on it at a different time?
I would actually argue I'm the one that got Andrew into fishing.
Okay, here we go. This is what we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But even before then, I'm going to give some credit to our mom. Really both of our parents, but our mom in particular. She constantly, took us outside. While a lot of our friends would get dropped off at the mall or whatnot, or just do a bunch of indoor things. I guess she would always make it a point to either, we were regulars at the nature center. We would do what's called creeking. So she would, take us down to the creek, and we'd splash around and catch crayfish with our hands. And
I love
so I think
that.
that's kind of where our love really started. It's like that's just what we love to do. It's like the second we had free time, we were gone, and like we were in the woods building forts with friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd say that's where it started for sure. And similar to what Andrew was saying, our whole lives we like most people, every now and then went fishing, and bought worms, and went with a bobber and caught some bluegill, maybe like a little largemouth here and there, which was exciting. I remember one time I went with one of my good friends who's pretty into bass fishing, and kind of that night crawler fishing is all I knew. And he had one of those like Bass Pro Shops, like XPS backpacks full of fishing lures. And like, I couldn't get over the fact that he had like a backpack full of fishing lures, and he tied on, I think it was just some sort of like beaver tail crawfish bait. It was like the first artificial bait I ever used, and I had a push button rod, and I tossed it out there and caught probably like a 2-pound largemouth, something around there. and that's kind of how I got hooked. It was like the second I went to using like an artificial lure and like purposely catching a largemouth was like the first time I got hooked on fishing as a whole. And that transitioned to, getting really into bass fishing. I was a junior Potomac River bass master for many years. So I fished tournaments, which was cool.
Whoa.
Nice.
It's pretty badass.
Yilma still has like a closet full of like bait casters and spinning rods. Like, Yilma was like,
dude, I went through that phase where my parents
build dance bait casters.
My parents were probably ready to strangle me because I was trying to convince them that you needed rods like a golfer needs different clubs. So I wanted to get like a crankbait rod. I wanted it was it got a little silly, but that's where the love started, and eventually that transferred over to fly fishing. Like Andrew and like he said, one year our parents got us both these identical. It was like that Temple Fork Outfitters. It was like a beginner pack, so it was like rod reel together. And pretty much from the second we like could take those out and go exploring, it was game over.
Yeah. It sounds like my childhood.
Maybe it's important to know what's the age difference
4 years
between you two. 4 years.
Right.
Right
So,
on.
so you guys got these TFO kits, and you just kind of like hit the rivers and hit the water, and we're like, here we go, hooked.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think the first place we used it was the creek behind our house, which was pretty much bluegill, pumpkin seed sunfish, small bass, and one summer in particular, I remember there was I think it was after Hurricane Sandy, whenever that was, a ton of water got pushed into our creek. And in this pool left over, there was probably like 5 or 6 common carp, which had never been in there. And like we flipped out, like when we went back there and like we saw that big gold thing flash, we were like losing it. So that was like the first big fish I ever caught on a fly rod as a common carp. But I would say it was kind of cheating because I'd put a clump of bread and let my rod sit there until it ate the fly, and then I caught it.
Hey, whatever.
I was gonna call you out for that.
Yeah.
Fly rod's a fly rod.
I think you had like you took like a prince nymph, but then like put like congealed bread around it and then tossed it in.
Yeah.
That's your bait casting experience.
Yeah.
That's what that is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's your power bait solve on the fly.
100%.
Hello.
The Prince Bait Power Bait's all.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so the fly fishing foray was mostly warm water, right? Like there was no trout fishing back then. It was all kind of warm water species.
There was some.
For the most,
I would say there was attempted trout fishing, but we were also so new that there was no chance we would hook a trout. To be honest.
Yeah.
and our trout fishery that we. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Our trout fishery that we eventually learned how to trout fish on is very difficult. Like the water is situated in a way that where you have to be dialed in with your flies and your presentation, and those fish can see you from a mile away. And so being able to key in and like start to like trout fishing took us some time.
Yeah.
Because you pretty much have to use 7X, and no one likes that.
Yeah.
Technical, very spooky fish. You're using tricky gear. Yeah, I hear you.
That makes sense. I mean, what?
Yeah, because
No, go ahead, Aldo. I was just gonna say,
no, go for it.
I totally agree. I mean, like the first time, my whole life it's been everything else but trout until I met Mitch and Aldo. You know what I mean? So, which was like 7 years ago. Yeah, super.
Yeah, and to be honest, like Mitch and I grew up in a trout-free environment too. Like pike and bass were always around, but not really trout. So we were doing the same thing, bluegill, bass, and that's what we learned how to fish on. And then you get into trout fishing, you're like, yeah, maybe I wouldn't have liked it if I wasn't getting bluegill on poppers when I was 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So when did
is Brookville, Maryland, like is that? Like I know you mentioned it's a suburban town, but like is your access to the outdoors kind of immediate? Like was it an easy thing to get to a creek or a lake or something like
It
that?
was. And yeah, I guess we were really privileged in that way because we say suburban, but it's also like it's kind of like the first rural area once you get outside. Like if you're in DC driving outwards, it's like the first area that's kind of rural. And so there's a ton of green space, and we had the privilege of being in a neighborhood where Eric and I could just go out the back door and explore a little neighborhood green space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dope. No, it sounds like a really beautiful place. When did the filmmaking come in? Like,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, sorry. I think there's like crazy delay going on right now, internet wise. Like surfing the internet delay. What were you gonna say, Eric?
I was just gonna say it's probably used to be pristine brook trout streams, but now it's just turned into panfish and bass. But I mean, it was still so much fun for us to explore.
Yeah. Yeah, wicked. I'm just trying to like figure out my internet fucking glitchiness, but that's dope. So, okay, when did the filmmaking stuff come into the picture? Like, how'd you guys get into making films? When did you start making films?
That's more so a question for me, I guess. But I've always been a filmmaker or a video creator, I guess I should say. That's just kind of along with fishing, and I would say before fishing even has just been a passion of mine. It started with making stop motion animation Lego videos with like Windows Movie Maker back when I was a kid, and forcing my family to sit through it. And eventually that graduated to, I don't know if you guys remember like the flip video cameras, like these little square cameras, and you flip the USB out. Yeah, so we had one of those.
Yes. Yes, 100%.
That turned into Andrew had the first generation GoPro, which was like the biggest deal ever.
Oh, it was huge. I remember those commercials.
Yeah, I remember him snowboarding.
You can see underwater.
Yeah, I remember him snowboarding with that big old thing, and just like thinking it was the coolest looking thing ever. But so that transitioned into kind of just recording family vacations. So the funny thing is, our favorite thing to do ever was like go on a trip somewhere and record ourselves snowboarding or hiking or fishing. And I remember one summer in particular, I think it was 2016, I'd saved up, I was a substitute lifeguard all summer. I saved up my full salary and bought my first kind of entry-level DSLR. And that was right before our first trip to Vail, Colorado, which is like one of the first times I was ever out west. And literally the whole time I was there, I was just filming. That's just what I love to do. So it's kind of cool, now as we're making these films to think back at like, man, like this is quite literally what we did for fun. Like this was our vacation, and now we're to the point where like we kind of get to do this for work. Hopefully eventually, definitely full time. It would be cool. But it really it's just always been a love, and I've never put a camera down.
Right. So I guess you mentioned something like, I think it's, this might be more a question for me. I guess what would be important to figure out is what is your like, let's say production relationship? Like if I'm going to use us as an example, like if we're on a shoot, typically it's Mitch will, like if all three of us get to be on the shoot, myself and Yilma will be actually being the camera operators, where Mitch will kind of coordinate the shoot and direct or write, so like, is there someone who's taking on the DOP role? Like who's doing what in your duo, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I think the lines get blurred a lot. I'm definitely
for sure, obviously, because you have to be nimble.
Exactly, and there's just two of us too. But I'm definitely the one. The DOP. Like I'm the one operating the camera. I'm the one editing. And for me, because I have the responsibility of filming and editing, a lot of times I take charge of kind of the creative stuff in general, of like the actual creation of the product, if that makes sense, or the video. But I mean, we really collaborate on that, like planning and creating. But Andrew's strong suits, I mean, you can speak on it, but for sure, like, I mean, he studied pretty much conservation and sustainability, so his knowledge is so helpful, and that's what, Journey Upstream was about, and what we hope, future films to be about. But also, I feel like you're kind of finding your role with you're like killer at like project management and communication type stuff,
which is huge.
which is
Like, that's what a
it's
producer
almost
is.
everything, to be honest. Like looking in
It is,
hindsight,
yeah.
looking back at the films we've made, the most time consuming parts and arguably some of the hardest work is the project development. It's the kind of what happens for months and months before the project is even made. It's connecting with sponsors, it's creating proposals, all that kind of stuff. So there really is so
Schedules.
much that goes into it that you don't think about.
Absolutely. So
I guess the next question would be why did fly fishing inspire your video making, and why wasn't it like skiing? Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you do make skiing videos or other, but like, what was it about fly fishing that really you were like, these are the videos that we want to make?
I think for whatever reason, fly fishing and just art in general, like really melds well together. Like the amount of people that are fly anglers and also painters, or fly anglers and filmmakers, is probably, there's more of a correlation there than like any other activity, I feel like. And that might just be because it's such like an artfully done activity, and there's so much beauty behind it and metaphor, and it's just ripe for creating endless content. And I think another point to make there is we're big fans of Jimmy Chin, and we both of us listened to his masterclass recently, and he talks all about how pretty much the reason he's so famous is because he's both a filmmaker and photographer. He's got that world, but he's also a mountaineer, and he's able to go to these places where, like, first of all, like, most people in the world cannot go to these places because you need a high degree of knowledge of how to navigate the mountains and an athletic ability to get up in those places. But then on top of it, you also need to be able to be comfortable enough in those spaces to be able to also film. And that's just, it blows your mind when you think about like going up to Everest, and you're not only trying not to die, but you're also filming.
Setting
and
up a good
I
shot.
think for us, fly
That's
fishing
insane.
kind of like, it provided the space where we got to a point where we felt comfortable enough that we could be really good at fly fishing, and then we also introduced cameras into the mix, and we've been able to balance the two. And we might not be climbing Everest or anything, but we've kind of achieved a balance where we can do both things in a beautiful artistic way.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we kind of always made fishing videos too. I think we love being outside in general, and we do a lot of different things, but I'd say fly fishing would probably be like our main activity. Like if we had a day off, like we probably would be fly fishing over other things. So I think kind of naturally it just happened because that's like the main activity we did. But also like for me, like when I was young, I started a YouTube channel with a friend that was a fishing YouTube channel. And I think we had it for like 2 years or something. It was when I was like middle school, like just getting into high school. And we did well. I think we had like a little bit over 4,000 subscribers or something. And some videos.
That's big.
We had a couple videos get like 100,000 views or something, which back then was like a huge deal to us. And we were like freaking out. But unfortunately, we were at that age where like as years we're starting to find out about it, we got self-conscious and wimped out and stopped.
Right.
But it was kind of that little period that I was not only forced to get better at pumping out like a weekly fishing video, getting better and better at filming and editing and posting it, but also I became much more knowledgeable and passionate about fishing, because the second you have to absorb information to like educate people, or like, if I don't want to say educate people, but like, I mean, we did like tips and tricks and stuff. So
Sure.
it kind of was like just my way of becoming more ingrained in the fishing community. So ever since I did that, it's kind of just been like, making fishing videos is almost second nature to me. So it was an easy transition, I guess, from that YouTube channel to what we do now.
Absolutely. And I feel like because of your knowledge of fishing, if you're going to film it, it's just going to be that much better. You're just going to grasp the angles better. You're going to know what to look for, all those kind of things. But also, you didn't mention conservation. I mean, fly fishing is like, if there's one type of sport, I would say we're all a very sustainable people, right? And I feel like Andrew, based on your education, it just goes hand in hand. It's like a seamless fit. But that's
a very good point.
Yeah.
I think part of the mission that we've developed with Breaker Bros is to use outdoor storytelling to spark sustainable change, and we want to create these outdoor films that are like super attractive and cool, and have all these fly fishing and other forms of outdoor recreation, but we want to kind of intermix environmental and sustainability messaging in there. And I guess the fly fishing lends itself to that, because as you said, it's a community that really sees the correlation between having the opportunity to get out there and catch a fish, and then also having the duty to make sure we have that fishery and that ecosystem stay intact for years to come. And that's really direct for fly fishing.
Yeah, that's really interesting you brought that up, because I kind of think, at least for me, that probably was some of the pull towards the fly fishing niche, specifically from kind of like the broader like fishing or bass fishing niche. Like, I don't want to diss them or that kind of fishing or anything, but I totally feel like the fly fishing space has a little bit more focus on conservation or sustainability. Maybe that's just a broad statement from my own perspective, but that's kind of like the vibe I got from the beginning. And I don't know, I do think that was kind of subconsciously probably a little bit of the pull for us, like why we started to go that route instead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like adding to that conversation, that sustainability conversation.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you guys think goes into, okay, so fly fishing films have been around for a long time, like way back, people have been shooting these things, but, recently they've blown up with things like F3T, and there's a lot of fly fishing films out there. What do you guys think goes into making like a great fly fishing film? Like, what is it that, people, when they see a film, they're like, oh, have you seen this one? Have you seen that one? Like, is it one thing, or, from your perspective, like, how do you make an award winner?
I think it's changing.
Question.
Yeah, that is the $1 million question. But I think in the past, what we've seen with fishing videos, and what took up the majority of the lineups in a lot of these festivals, was kind of just what they call fish porn, or just dudes getting on a trip and getting flown somewhere 8 hours away, tropical, and just railing massive tropical fish on the fly and like freaking out and screaming, which is cool to watch. And at the beginning, everyone was like loving it because no one's seen that before. But I think we're starting to hit a point where people are getting vocal about it too, especially this year, where people are kind of like, we're done seeing that. What people want to see now is a real story, which isn't a shocker. So I think that's, at the heart of it, is that people want a good story, and I think people need to focus on that. But something I think people are also craving is they want to see more like domestic stuff. They want more of that message, like, look at the badass fishing that's in your own backyard, that is actually accessible, So I think a film with like a strong story centered around something a little bit more grounded.
Hmm.
I mean, like you could even make a film about going out back here and catching pumpkin seed or bluegill, as long as like the story's there. So
Totally.
for
Totally.
me, that's kind of like the where I see fishing films right now. Like I think most of the attention is going to be moving towards those more grounded, well thought out stories.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
No, absolutely. No, 100%.
Yeah.
People are so tired of the,
It's a good
the grip and grins.
Yeah, it's a good point because at the beginning, you're like, I didn't even know what the fuck a GT was. I
Totally.
knew what a giant trevally was, or even where the Seychelles are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. But now we know, and we've seen the whoa, it's crazy, isn't it crazy?
yeah,
Yeah.
But so you're right. I think story driven.
every film is pretty much like this is the hardest fighting fish pound for pound, and then it's just like a
Totally.
different fish every film, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But it has its time and place, and I feel like
Yeah, it gets old.
I feel like it does get old.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
It's like fantasy, like now it's travel porn as opposed to fish porn or something. I don't know.
exactly, and that's finite because
Yeah.
the only reason that's valuable is because you're showing people like a species or a place that they've never seen before, and there's only so many of those out there before you're doing multiples of that fishery, and then people
Yeah.
are going to start wanting a story. Yeah, you can't just keep looking for some fish that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. And it's way cooler now that we've got, films, movies, like with stories around fly fishing. I think that's like way more entertaining. Which, that actually might be a nice segue into your most recent film, which is Phoenix. This is the film that's in this year's F3T. Andrew, for people that don't know the storyline, we checked out, by the way. It's awesome. Looks amazing. Want to go fishing there? Especially right now, like up here in Canada. It's like shitty outside and snowy, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to go fishing. But can you tell people listening, people that haven't seen it yet, what it's about?
Yeah, so Phoenix is a film about one of our close friends and actually a guide that took us out in 2016. Her name is Katie Fiedler Anderson. She's a guide in the Vail Valley here in Colorado. And we stayed in contact with her since then. And we recently, this past year, reached out to her, and we wanted to reconnect and hear about her experience being a female fly fishing guide in the Vail Valley. Since the last time we had talked with her, she had her firstborn, and she had started her own business. She had stopped working for the guiding service that she had committed, I think, over a decade to guiding for. And her husband, who's also a guide, they created their own mobile guiding service, which is kind of unique. And so the film is really about her and her family navigating the space of living as fly fishing guides, being a fly fishing guide family, and navigating the space of having a child, starting their own business, and creating a life where they could be parents and also continue their love of being fly fishing guides.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, it's like we were saying, like you've got a story, like nice story there now, right? It's not just about the fish. Eric, like why was it important for you guys to like tell this story? Like what was it about this story that got you jacked?
Honestly, it just is, in my eyes, just such like a perfect little heartwarming family story. And even more specifically, it's a family that's centered around fly fishing, which we both think is just so cool. Both
Totally.
parents being full-time guides. They're always on the water with Phoenix, and they have a little, fake casting rod for her. It's just awesome to see like a whole family that fly fishing is so meaningful to them. And we had stayed in contact with Katie, and we were kind of trying to figure out new films, new ideas and whatnot. And we were struggling a little bit. We had a call with her, and she was pretty much just filling us in with what had happened since the last time we saw her. And we weren't necessarily thinking about a film, but like Andrew said, hearing the fact that she had a newborn, she quit her job, started her own guiding company. We're kind of like, wait, like what happened in between that? Like we know there's some sort of story there.
Right.
And the cool thing is she had this paper written. I'm not sure exactly who she planned on sending it to. And I think, in fact, she didn't send it to anyone. But it was this beautifully written paper kind of talking about her experiences as a female guide in the fishing space. Just some stories, as I'm sure you guys can guess, some ridiculous stories have happened throughout the years, like clients refusing to use like a pink San Juan worm because they don't want to throw a girl fly, or people getting in the van or her truck and saying like, "Oh, cool, like, are you driving us to our fishing guide?" So just like a bunch of kind of lighter stories like that, but it kind of led up to what we read, and was kind of at the heart of this film is while she worked at the shop she was at, she went and had Phoenix and was on maternity leave and kind of got screwed over a little bit. As I'm sure you guys know, like Andrew and I have never been guides, so we haven't experienced this, but from what we hear, there's a lot of politics that goes into a lot of their shops and kind of the roster.
Definitely. Yep.
And she kind of got screwed over when she was gone for so long and came back, and people weren't treating her the right way. And even, at one point it got to the fact that I think Phoenix was like almost 2 or something. And somebody like hit her up on Facebook and was like, "Oh, so bummed that like you couldn't make it out to like guide for me. Like the shop called and told me like you were pregnant and like you couldn't guide us." And she was like, "Well, my daughter's 2 and like walking around me right now, so like that's not the case."
Jeez, eh?
So she like went through this like hard experience, and instead of kind of just like folding in the cards or saying, "Oh well," and playing the game or trying to work her way back, she said, "Okay, like screw it," and she quit with her husband, and that was kind of what made them start their own business. So the idea behind the film was like, let's tell this story in a short way without getting too negative, because it's a short film. You only have so much time to get a story across. Right. And that's really what the film is about, because this leap of faith that they did, quitting their job, starting their own business, was because of Phoenix. So she kind of was like the catalyst of change for them, which is really the main message. And I think it's also kind of cool that like, separate from her name, a phoenix, is like a symbol for like a renewal or like rising from the ashes kind of. So it's kind of like a little bit of play on words there, but that was really the heart of the story.
That's cool.
It's great. I love that.
That's cool. Yeah. What went into making this? Like, how long did it take you guys to shoot it and capture this story?
You're muted, boy.
Oh, a classic on mute moment. Right.
Classic moment. Thank you, Rick. It took us 2 solid weekends. And it was kind of nice for me because I was living in Colorado. I'd moved by then. And so I was stoked for a Colorado film. And Eric flew into Denver, and I would go pick him up, and we would drive out to Vail and spend a weekend where we had a good time, but we had a regimented schedule where we knew we had to be shooting here at sunrise, here at sunset, and in between we had to be doing all these things in order to be able to knock out production within those 2 weekends. But it was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it sounds fun. I mean, did you guys get to fish a lot too while you were filming, or was it all business?
I would say the first trip we probably fished a little bit too much, and we regretted it hardcore because the second trip
Nice.
we were kind of like, oh crap, like we can't really afford
Yeah.
another weekend out to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, we still found our time. Like I remember the second weekend was just everything went so smoothly. And it was such a good feeling. And on that last morning before Andrew drove me back to the airport, we stopped at one of our favorite spots and just had like a killer morning. Like caught more brookies and high mountain brookies and cutthroats than we could count, and it was even more satisfying because we knew we just like killed it and wrapped up production. So that was a pretty great moment.
Good way to celebrate it. I was gonna say there's a moment where you land a particularly gorgeous brookie
It reminded me of the Lady
in
Evelyn
that movie, and I was like,
so
whoa,
green.
like so green, like so green. Yeah,
That was.
Special
I remember
fish.
that.
That was hands down the most beautiful brook trout I've ever seen in my life. I have we have a great photo of it too. That fish was awesome.
It's funny how
Is that standard for like high mountain brookies? Like, are they all kind of like that kind of color, or is it just that one was just like stand out?
They're so different. I feel like I think we talked about this last year. We were talking about how brook trout, they have so many subspecies, and then when you add in the fact that like humans move them around, and then they're breeding in other areas, like you could go to one drainage and catch a brook trout, and it's kind of like silvered up with like a little bit of color, and then you go one drainage over, and it's like that fish that we caught.
Yeah, it's cool.
Right.
Yeah. Wait, I don't know if this has been asked though, fellas, but do you search out the just in case, because my memory? Let me tell you,
Fellers.
Do you search out your stories, or do people contact you based on what they've seen in the past? Like what is the best way, or the most that thing that you've been doing to get your stories and direct them? That was a terrible question, the way it was said.
No.
But you under.
I think what you're trying to say is, how do you find your projects?
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
Do they come to you?
Yeah, I should have just stopped when I got there, but then my brain's like, wait, I'm gonna use this word, but don't use this word. Anyways, but I think we all got there, and right on time. 40 seconds comic relief. Go ahead, guys.
I got you. So far with A Journey Upstream in Phoenix, we created, kind of the idea of those stories and sought them out. But now we're hitting the point where people are starting to kind of approach us with their stories.
Right.
A lot of people too. There's some ideas that are, we're psyched about and we're, chasing them, but we're also getting a bunch of DMs every day now from people like, hey, like, yeah, like come to Texas and make a film about me. Like I got you for dinner, and it's just like,
yeah.
But that's an interesting question, because I think as you start, you totally have to kind of chase, concepts on your own. But we're starting to hit that point, I think, where it's changing and people are approaching us.
That's amazing.
And it's interesting. Yeah, we're pretty happy to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
100%. So are you just speaking about the future then? Like, are you guys like, what projects do you have coming up that you're stoked about that you could talk about? Anything on the near future? It's got you stoked.
Yeah. So, like Eric said, we've got a number of ideas right now. We're going through a major brainstorming phase. But one project that we're really stoked about, and somebody actually reached out to us with a plan and a budget, and we're ready to go here as long as we can find the time away from work. It's a project back in Maryland, and it's kind of like a Journey Upstream 2, or a Journey Upstream extended version.
Right.
Where
Redux.
If you remember, so a Journey Upstream is striped bass and brook trout. It's talking about Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
film.
loved it.
Yeah.
Can people watch that now that it's outside of the F3T
It's on YouTube.
world? Like, where can people find that? Oh, nice.
Wicked.
Okay, great. Well, we'll put that link in the show notes for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, go to Breaker Bros.
Yeah.
And,
Breaker
okay, so
Bros.
this new film.
Breaker. You know, guys, too, the fucking thing about that is, like, I totally remember that. Like, I know your name, but you have to remember, I have a goldfish brain. Okay, like my memory is like 10 seconds long, so don't sweat it. But anyways, okay, yeah.
So this new concept is, instead of two fish talking about Maryland, we've broadened it out to the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed, and we're now focused on multiple species. We still haven't outlined the details yet, but we're trying to choose kind of like a handful of the most iconic species within the entire watershed and targeting those, and also kind of like turning it into more of a, maybe less of a cinematic approach and more of a DIY approach, where we're checking out these fisheries and highlighting, a guide or a legend in the space, and getting into a little bit more of a conversation about the sense of place and the fishery.
Right.
But it's still it's around the Chesapeake Bay, which we're passionate about, and we're really looking forward to it.
We're
That's interesting.
hoping to take some inspiration from kind of like the DOS Boat series, if that gives you a better idea. Because what they want to do is we're working with FFI, Fly Fishers Internationals, kind of the group that approached us, and other sponsors that are yet to be determined. But part of the concept too is we're going to go to 7 different fisheries within the Chesapeake Bay watershed in about 7 days, and they want to create 7 short videos and then kind of use that footage to create one longer film. And it's a part of a broader Chesapeake Bay campaign that's going to also include a podcast series and an edition of, I think, the Fly Fisherman magazine. Don't quote me on that, but some fly fishing magazine. So we're pretty stoked to be a part of that, and it's gonna be a lot of work. I'm a little bit scared already, because I think they're putting us in like a little a camper van for 7 days, and I'm like, in my head I'm thinking like camper van, 7 short videos, like 1 short film. Like, how the hell am I gonna do this? So it'll be beefy. Interesting. Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's sweet though. That's a super exciting project. I mean, it's like
sounds like an awesome project.
Yeah, big thing. That's gonna be great. Stoked.
Yeah, I would be worried that we just put that idea out into the world and somebody's gonna steal it. But I also am not worried, because it's way too difficult of a project, and no one would ever try that.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Andrew, if I may say so, my friend here. They could do it, but it won't be as good as yours. That's the difference. So regardless.
Oh, look at that!
I appreciate that.
From
for
Yoma
sure.
Campbell.
For sure.
And Yoma's an art director, so he knows. He knows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe on that note, we were talking about sustainability earlier, and you kind of see this medium, videos and movies, as a way to spark that kind of like, maybe not sustainable change, but maybe somebody even like in and of themselves. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, are there anything like, how do you think that your videos or other people's videos do spark that change? Like, obviously they're inspiring. You see a video about a certain watershed, and we've done one in Indiana of all places, and we did a podcast about a local stream. So obviously, aside from like somebody watching that and being like, whoa, that's now important to me because this video is inspiring. Like, how do you think that our role is, like, if we're fly fishing podcasters or video makers or photographers, like, how can we inspire people to make that change that you want to make? Like, aside from just like putting a video out about a certain river, like,
what are the
is that all we do, or how do we action? Yeah, what are the actionable things that like can happen through art, I guess, is the question.
I think I've heard you guys talk about this concept in past podcast episodes, but for me, I guess at the most simple level, it's kind of hoping to inspire people to get out and experience their own environment, in whatever way that is, whether that's fishing or hiking or rock climbing or trail running or whatever. Just, I want people to get out and connect with nature, because that is so incredibly important. And, no one's going to want to protect what they don't have a connection to. So for me, that's kind of the heart of it. And that's totally where a lot of the inspiration to these films came. A big part of it for me is trying to showcase the beauty of Chesapeake Bay watershed, or of, the Eagle River watershed in Vail Valley. And also, we're kind of pumping out the content on our social media too, like on Instagram Reels, and we even started a TikTok page, which is kind of popping off, believe it or not. Yeah. There you go. Everyone made
TikTok's where it's
fun
at
of it until now. Yeah.
Totally.
But the interesting thing is, we've gotten such a cool response from all of that stuff online, and I feel like we're living in a day and age where the separation between humans and nature is getting wider and wider, I think, with, the advancement of technology. And I think that's creating a host of different problems. And for me, like, instead of just like sitting back and saying like, oh, like this is terrible, like the young generation is screwed, I love the idea of like saying, hey, like, that could lead to some problems, but let me use my skill set to try to create content and meet them where they are, and hopefully spark some conversations or inspire a few people to get out and try fly fishing. While we get, a ton of dumb comments on TikTok and Instagram, like everyone too, there are a lot of people saying like, this is gorgeous, like, thank you so much. Or people saying things like, this inspired me to get out this weekend, or, this made me want to go pick up my fly rod and get back out. So that's kind of like,
I think,
it's true.
Yeah, I think if anybody watches your film Phoenix, I mean, and you do a very good job of that, is you do make it look as gorgeous as it is, because it is, and you don't need it to be the Vail Valley for fly fishing to be gorgeous. Yeah, although it certainly helps. Like I think you can find, I think even around here, like you find little moments of nature, like in downtown Toronto. Like, I'll take my friends fishing in downtown Toronto and be like, "What? This park exists here?" And like, I remember taking somebody and a deer walked across the river, and we're like, 10 minutes from my house, which is like, pretty densely populated. And everyone's like, whoa, like, what's going on, Toronto? Like, so, you can find beauty kind of anywhere. I guess you don't have to be in the Rockies, but but
hidden gems
for sure.
That imagery does inspire. That's for sure.
No, it's absolutely. No, it's great.
Yeah.
No, it's a good way to look at it. So, well, if anyone's, and the other cool thing about that too is you get people that maybe don't fly fish even, like, doing it through the F3T and stuff. People bring their friends out, people just stumble across your TikTok stuff, and you get people that don't even know what fly fishing is. And then maybe they're like, they get into it, So, yeah, I think that you're right. Like, just that inspiration is super important. And then, of course, when you can do projects that can, directly attach to an initiative, that's a whole other positive thing. But, no, it's great. I dig it. Okay, fellas. Well, it's that part of the show where we do Mitch's Fishy's 5, which is the same 5 questions we ask every guest at the end of the show. I think last time we did one of them, right? It was the tying one. I think it was the tie one, right?
I think we did I think we did the fly one last time.
The fly one, yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, we're going to do that one again, too, and we'll see if that lines up. But let's just start with the first one, and we'll start, Andrew, maybe with you with, what is your favorite
Actually,
fish?
wait. Sorry. I had a... Sorry, Mitch.
Please.
I'm so sorry, Mitch. Mitch, I'm so sorry.
Oh, my God, Aldo.
What film did you enjoy making more? Is it,
good question.
Was it this year's or the one before? I'm just a little bit curious. Or did you find... Maybe a better question, because picking favorites is...
That's a tough one.
I don't know. Maybe kind of silly, but like... Did you find it easier making this film than the one prior, just because you had been through the process before, or was it harder because you're like, oh fuck, now we got to think of something again and go through this process of submitting to the F3T again?
They were so different, and it's hard to say which one I enjoyed making more. A Journey Upstream was so special because we kind of, Eric and I were, that happened during like the heart of COVID when we were in the same house together, and we like really worked together
Right.
on that thing and put together this story that felt so perfect. And then we brought in our friends to help make it, and it was about our home watershed that we grew up in. So there was so much sentimental value there. And then Phoenix was like our second project, so we had like a little bit of a taste into like where this could go and what this could turn into. And it was so much fun to reconnect with Katie, who we had a history with. As I said, we had been on a guided trip with her years prior, and Vale is also one of our favorite areas, and so there's also
That's gorgeous.
special moments to that. But one component that made Phoenix a lot different was that Eric and I were separated, and I was out here in Colorado, and so we would have to schedule out phone calls and manage the time difference, and I would have to like get on a phone call right after work before like Eric had to go to bed, and it was kind of hard to figure that out. And because of that, Eric totally took the lead role on creating Phoenix, and he was the main director, and I kind of took a backseat approach and as assistant director. And so I played a little bit less of a role in Phoenix, and we didn't have that kind of same like consistent I guess work environment that we had when we were stuck
Right.
in the same house creating A Journey Upstream.
Yeah.
I'll also add, I would say the actual production of Phoenix was a lot more stressful because it involved travel. Like it was a matter of
Right.
like, it added the logistics of like, okay, renting gear, packing it up, making sure it weighs a certain amount and getting that in an airplane. And,
Yeah.
we're just starting out. So for us, plane tickets for 2 trips out there for me was like a big deal. Like
That's
that, yeah, that
expensive.
was like,
Yeah.
the majority of our budget almost.
Yeah.
So it was also stressful because it adds this time factor where you are like, dude, like if this doesn't pan out, if the weather's not there, if we botch
Yeah.
the audio today, like we can't buy another plane ticket, man. So it totally added, stress to the actual production. Whereas A Journey Upstream was more of like a compounded creation of many weekends back to back. And it's like, if we didn't get a shot, we're like, all right, like we're fishing,
Get it
in
next
Western
time.
Maryland next weekend anyway, like just bring your camera, and just
Yeah.
throw everything in the back of the car. So that was totally a big difference between the two.
Yeah. It was almost
Yeah.
like Phoenix was like the first, kind of what you might think is a traditional production, where it's like there's a lot of shit in the way, flights and
Yeah.
phone calls and stuff like that. That's good that it worked out, so
sure.
you guys
Yeah.
got
Time
that under your
change.
belt, and now it's onto that giant project with a little more, I guess, experience in that sense, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
dope.
It'll be interesting.
It's going to get easier and
Yeah.
easier.
No, absolutely.
Maybe,
Okay,
maybe, yeah.
okay, back-
Easier
let's-
is maybe
let's
the
go-
wrong word. Maybe
Let's go
it's like,
back.
oh, sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
Let's reverse. We're going to reverse back into Mitchy's Fishies 5, which is the first question was for Andrew. And I was saying, Andrew, what is your favorite fish and why? If you had to pick a favorite fish, which would it be?
It's going to be brook trout.
You dick.
Boom.
Yeah, and there's so many reasons why it's brook trout.
Yeah.
But I think what it comes down to, and I think I gave a similar answer last year, is that they live in my personal favorite ecosystem. And,
Yeah.
since they're an indicator species, meaning that they only live in environments that are in top tier pristine condition, they're not living next to a parking lot or next to a toxic site, or in order to catch a brook trout, you also have to be in like the most pristine mountain environments possible. So those are always fun places to be.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Great
Like
answer.
how they look and what
I'm
they
smiling
mean.
because,
Love it.
yeah,
I love it.
exactly. Like
I feel like
we have
Eric
the
was
other
going to say
credit.
brook trout. I think
Like
Eric was going to
when
say
I was
brook
in
trout
school, Oh, he's definitely going to say brook trout. But I wanted to add one more thing. When you guys were in school, would you like doodle like trout and like little like streams in your notebook?
I would probably say bass, but yes.
Yeah.
So
Or just be like this little fish scene in my notebook.
Yeah.
whenever, like, if you told me to like picture like my fantasy trout stream, it would look like an Appalachian brook trout stream.
Yeah.
It would be like cascading plunge pools
Yes.
with like some white water and just like a tiny little pool section where there's like one little brook trout sitting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That is like my fantasy, and that's like my meditation, and that's why I love it so much.
Winter's got to end, man. I'm sick of it. I just want to go fishing.
Oh my
Holy.
God, I know.
Andrew's got to stop romancing these scenes right here.
Yeah, seriously.
This is like
on.
trout ASMR right now, dude.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, let me whisper that.
It's rising. I love it. Eric, if you had to pick a favorite fish, which would it be? What's your favorite fish?
It would be brook trout.
Nice.
But I said that last year as well, and I knew Andrew would steal it, so I was kind of hoping I would get that question first. But
Nice.
I came with a backup answer, and I'm gonna say brown trout.
Nice.
Nice. Okay.
You know, when I went to school, I was pretty close to Penns Creek, so that was kind of like the river
nice.
I always fished
Oh.
in college.
Nice.
And honestly, like fishing a streamer on this one stretch of Penns Creek I used to always fish was like, this might be hands down like some of my favorite fishing experiences, either with a good friend of mine or just by myself. Like I remember there would be like a rainy day and I didn't have class, or I did have class, and I would go. And I would just be the only one on the stream because it'd be like pouring rain and like no one else wants to fly fish in the rain, and I'm just ripping streamers, and it's also great weather for that. And seeing that like that brown flash, even if you don't catch them, which on a streamer, just seeing that brown flash and like feeling the tug for a second, like that gets me hooked all day.
Oh, nothing better.
Oh yeah.
That's the almost jam.
Yeah, nothing better.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah,
I remember
can dig
screaming
that.
once.
I can dig that. That's getting me excited.
Oh no!
Once.
Oh no! Right here, man!
There's a fish. There's a fish.
Constantly freaking out. And it's always the biggest fish you've ever seen in your life.
Always the
It's always
biggest.
like 5 feet.
Yeah. Oh.
Haven't caught a massive fish, and I think part of that is just where I'm at. Like, there's not a lot of big fish, especially in Maryland, but it still haunts me. I probably, like, right at the end of my college career, where my days on Penns Creek were numbered, I hooked a fish that was probably in like the 23, 24 range.
Nice.
And it was at the end of summer, so I was fishing a dry fly, and for fun, at the end of the night, I put on a streamer, and I was lazy, and I think I had like 4X on with a streamer, and I hooked this monster. And as my friend was going to net it, it came off, and I threw my rod as far as I could onto the bank, and it was just like complete silence with my friend for like probably a solid 30 minutes, and eventually in the car we just both were like, oh my god, like that's I still think about that fish.
Yeah,
It's gonna haunt you.
Yeah, those fish, the ones that get away from us are. I think that's maybe partly why we keep going out, right? We've all had those moments. It's like, man, that one fish, But
I always have to go to that one spot now. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's fitting for this next question. Eric, maybe we'll start with you this time. If you could fish anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why? If you could go anywhere in the world.
You can
Best time of
imagine
year.
it's the best time to go there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be March 14th, 2022. It could be like, I'm in Colorado at the best time to be in Colorado.
Yeah.
Or something.
Man, that's an overwhelming question. I mean, there's so many answers. I almost want to, take a simple approach and say, maybe it's just because I'm craving it so much because it's winter, like Aldo was saying, like I'm like just dying to get out there. But I would almost say, central Pennsylvania in I'll say like the early spring, on a brook trout stream would probably be where I've been craving it like crazy. Like hearing Andrew whispering about this cascading waterfalls was getting me going. So honestly, I'll say that instead of, that also goes with my theme of not choosing somewhere exotic and cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I dig it.
I like
Andrew,
that. I think
where would you go?
Mitch and I are actually going. Oh, sorry.
Somewhere.
Mitch and I are going to central Pennsylvania this year for the first time.
That's right. Oh man, I'm stoked.
I've been, but I'm going with Mitchie. So it should be fun.
I've never been, man. I'm going to be looking for that big beefer that you missed there, Eric. I'm going to try to hook it and send you a picture. Tell you that for free.
I think there's plenty of them. So.
Oh yeah, no, I bet.
Tell you that for free.
Andrew, where would you go if you could fish anywhere in the world right now?
I'm gonna say Belize, and
nice.
Targeting a primarily permit, but also just going for diversity of species. And the great thing is, I actually just booked my trip. That's where I'm going for my honeymoon a year from now.
Well, we're coming.
Right on.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Carly's gonna be pumped.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's actually kind of funny. Yoma's art school friend who now lives and guides in Belize.
No way.
Yeah.
At one of the lodges?
Which is...
Yeah. A Tarpon Cay.
Which one? Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's not where we're going, but that's awesome.
Yeah. Where are you going?
Yeah, Belize looks like an amazing place.
We're splitting our time between Thatch Cay and Copal Tree Lodge, which are they're under the same umbrella, so they can offer like split time. So
very cool.
Yeah,
you're gonna have
awesome.
I can't
Have a
wait.
great time. Saltwater fishing is wild.
Permit. Wow.
Okay, number 3, Mitch's Fishes 5. Andrew, what is one of your favorite or best fishing memories, if you could pick one?
And there's probably a lot.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It was actually the one that comes to mind was when we were on set for Phoenix.
Yep.
And we were fishing one of our favorite little tributaries that is small enough that you can jump across, and most of the summer it's you can always count on catching like smaller brook trout or cutthroat. But as with a lot of tributaries, if you go there in like late summer and early fall, you can have the chance of finding a pre-spawn brown trout that's made its way up there. And I actually lived in the Vail Valley in 2018 for a year, and I remember the exact pool and the exact day that I pulled out a giant brown trout out of a pool where you would normally pull out a tiny little brookie. And we were on set on that tributary for Phoenix on that same day, like 5 years later, and in that same exact pool pulled out a brown trout.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
What's even cooler is that it wasn't me fishing or Eric fishing. It was the Anderson family fishing together, and it was that the final scene of the film where they're all together, like fishing the hole, and they pull out that brown trout that has that whole backstory to it.
Yeah, it's wicked. That's a great memory. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, how about you? What's one of your faves?
Man, there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are generally when we're together because something cool or funny happens. But one that pops into my head that was more of a funny experience was, I guess, last year, or a little bit over a year ago. We fished a salmon run up in Pulaski, New York.
Yeah.
And we were there with Douglas at like the Douglas Salmon Camp, and it was an awesome weekend. We had never really experienced fishing like that, and Andrew and I both landed a king salmon on the fly, which was just mind blowing. It's like you hook a shark in like a little stream, and I even was like running upstream at one point chasing one. But we were there with one of a good friend of ours. His name is Zach Clinchy. He used to do a lot of work with Cheeky, and he's a really funny dude. His humor is kind of like this. It's like self-deprecating type humor. He's just like a hilarious guy who's like all the bad stuff always happens to him. And we had gone this whole weekend, and and pretty much everyone had landed like a massive king salmon or coho or like a lake run brown. And he was like the only guy that hadn't caught a fish the whole time. And he was getting pissed, and like he was starting to like get vocal about it. And it was like the last day we were like literally getting ready to leave, and he hooks one finally. And he literally fights this thing for probably like 15, 20 minutes. And Andrew's just next to him fishing, somewhat at the same hole, but I mean, as you know, that's the way the fishing goes. Everyone's pretty much lined up next to each other.
Yeah.
And right when he thought the fish was about to get tired, his line just goes like completely slack, and he just starts like cussing up a storm and going crazy. And right about the same time, Andrew's rod bends over, and the fish starts fighting Andrew's rod. So we just assumed, like, Andrew, there's so many fish, we assumed it was just another fish. But eventually Andrew got it to the net after a pretty short fight, and lo and behold, it's Andrew's fly, and then Zach's fly broken off in the corner of its mouth. So I have the funniest photo of Andrew holding his fish, and Zach like next to him with his hand on it, just like pissed.
Just like
that's a great story.
Like not only did he not land the fish, but that same fish also ate Andrew's fly. And Zach had warmed him up, so Andrew, like, it was nuts. It was hilarious.
I was already a bit tired. Yeah,
that's
so crazy.
Story.
Like the chances of that too. I love it. It's so funny. Good memory.
That's good. Poor guy though.
Okay, number 4 then, Andrew. Andrew, why do you fly fish? What do you get out of it?
Hard question.
I think I do it. I do it for a lot of reasons, but I think the reason is probably it's because it's meditation. It's my primary form of meditation, and I love it. It's my way to decompress and to also go into beautiful environments and to get back in tune with nature and with myself. I think that's the number one reason.
Yeah, no, I love that. Meditativeness is like it's a huge one. We hear that a lot because it's so true. I mean, Eric, how about you? Like, what do you get out of fly fishing? Why do you keep going back out?
One sec, can I say something real quick, Eric?
Of course you can.
Okay,
yes,
so Andrew, I was taking a selfie for my mom. That's all. But I listened to your story. I just want you to know I wasn't ignoring you. When my mom calls, I got to answer.
Mom selfies.
All right, Eric, sorry. Go ahead.
Honestly,
good reason to break that up, Yoma?
I just don't want you guys to think I was being rude,
Christ.
that's all.
Like, oh my God.
I didn't want you to think I was being rude by any means.
No, we would never. Honestly, my answer is pretty much the same. I think it's my activity where, like, you don't think about anything other than, what is my cast looking like? What's the bug life? What's the structure? What is the stream doing? And, a big part of it for me too is it's an activity that forces you to get out in nature, which I think is so incredibly important, not even just for, conservation like we were talking about before, but for mental health, for your physiology even too. It's so incredibly important. And I think no matter what you do, I think like everyone should have an activity where they get outside and appreciate that. And for me, it happens to be fly fishing. And I'm thankful because I feel like I've gotten to a point where I'm cool if I don't catch a fish anymore. It's just like if I get to go walk around the forest and stand in a river and like really appreciate it, then the fish are kind of just a bonus. As cheesy as that sounds, that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's
great.
great. 100%.
I mean, I don't think it's that cheesy.
Not
Like,
at all.
I think I just kind of thought of something while you're saying that. Like, I don't know if I'm realizing, how much it like. Well, I know it's a privilege I get to fish all the time, but how much of it is like, you meet people, especially when I used to work in a fly shop, where like sometimes they only fish once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's because they're investment bankers and they go salmon fishing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's because they've got kids and jobs and they just don't get to fish as much as, like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something to take for granted that we get to go as often as we do, because it really is special for sure.
Totally.
Special. Like you said, like it's a special place to be in that mindset where you're like, I don't care if I catch anything.
Yeah.
Because I get to go so often. It's just so nice to be outside.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%. No, I feel that. Okay, number 5, and the last of Mitch's Fishies 5. Andrew, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be? I'm trying to remember what you said last year, but we're going to cross.
Can Eric and I do each other's flies?
Yes,
Oh,
I
like
think that's
that.
maybe what we
Yeah.
did. Yeah, let's do that.
It is.
What would
And
Eric
I-
be?
That did not sound right, Andrew.
You know what I meant. Come on. Yeah. So I've been thinking
there
a
goes
lot
all
about this actually.
Yeah.
And Eric is definitely a slug fly.
Nice.
And let me
Why
tell you
do
why.
slug fly? Yeah.
Early on in our fly fishing days, when we would go into a fly shop, we had no idea about sizes of flies or different types of insects and like what to actually fish on what water. But we would go into fly shops and just look for like the most like outrageous flies possible. Like at first, if you looked at our like fly boxes, like when we were first starting, Eric had like one side of his fly box was like all like really odd stuff. Like he had a ladybug fly and like a slug fly and just like
Japanese beetle.
yeah, Japanese beetle. Yeah, and so
I'd fish with it.
yeah, you're a slug fly. Did you ever
Well,
use that?
No, I don't appreciate you just outing me like that. My little collection I just have. No, but I definitely just used to buy. I think part of that was on Mom too, because she would come with us to the shops and she'd be like, "Ooh, like get the ladybug one." And I thought it was like cool to have like a collection of like different cool looking flies. But yeah, I never used the slug fly.
Yeah, I was gonna say a slug fly. I've never seen a slug fly, or what you might use a slug fly for. But I dig that.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
wrap
probably.
it in
Carp would go
bread,
after.
you could get a carp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Eric, what would Andrew be? What fly would Andrew be?
Oh man. I feel like Andrew would be something like a muddler minnow, or like
Nice.
some sort of a sculpin representation.
Yeah. He does look
Just
very
like
classic.
reliable, and like not the best looking. I feel like is
All right.
I was waiting for the trash to come out. You know what I mean? He gave you a slug fly, and you're like, muddler. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. I love it.
I love that.
I'll take
I love
it.
it. A muddler minnow.
Yeah.
I dig that.
Nice.
No, those are good flies.
Yeah.
I mean, one day when we compile all of these
That's a
answers, we're gonna have
rookie fly.
a slug and then a muddler minnow, and it's what the hell's going on here? It's quite the juxtaposition, but hey, I love it. Sweet.
Yeah, I should probably get started
We'll
on
finally
that.
make the
I should be
coffee
working on
table
that
book.
like once a week.
Yeah, yo, man.
Putting it,
Come on, man. You're
compiling.
slacking, baby. You're slacking.
I'm always
Yeah,
slacking.
man. I love it. Andrew, Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show, guys. That was it was fun to get to chat.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is good.
and thanks for putting up with my shitty internet connection. I can't wait to one day do this in person and we can have a better conversation without the grips of the internet. But thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah.
And hey, right now is a good time to plug any stuff you're doing. Where can people find your stuff? links to things, TikTok, Instagram, website.
Instagram.
What's going
Yeah,
on?
thanks so much for having us. The best place to go to find out what we're doing is Breaker Brothers on Instagram and Facebook, now on TikTok. And our personals, I'm Andy Brake. And Eric, yours is just your name, right? Eric Breaker.
Yeah. Yes.
And we've also recently just started working with an outdoor clothing brand, which we're both repping right now. It's called Wise River. So
sweet.
we recommend you all head over to Wise River as well on Instagram and Facebook.
Very
Beautiful.
Cool. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
check it right
We'll
now.
put links to all that stuff in the show notes.
Wise River.
Yeah. No, those are quite nice looking shirts. I dig them. Good for at home and on the river, as they say, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have to get you all some.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
it works for us. Yeah, we that's great. And if for everybody who's been to the F3T, I'm sure that they've enjoyed your film. But if it's coming to a town near you, be sure to go and check out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll put
Check out the films.
links to the film's Journey Upstream in the show notes, and yeah, thanks so much again, guys, for coming on. It's been fun.
Also, I want to say March 19th, we're going to be at the showing in Fort Collins. So if anyone's around that area, we'd love to meet up and watch some cool films.
Boom, love it. Okay, amazing. We'll put that. Wait, which
you
date
go.
was it? What was the date again?
The 19th.
19th. Okay, cool. Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, check that out. Head over and meet Andrew and Eric. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was super fun, and I hope you get out soon and enjoy some fishing. And yeah, take care, fellas.
Thank
Sounds
you so
good.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.